everybody, happy Fit to Flatter Friday. Well, it's been a great week and lots of you have been in touch and you're all doing fantastic. And can you believe we've got somebody that's already made theirs already, and I've shown you on Facebook, I've posted it out, and we've got a few more that I'm going to add over the weekend. After that nightmare last weekend trying to post this, I'm going to be really quick and make this a lot shorter, but I've got a few others to follow, so I hope that's okay with you. People keep sending me lots of advice, which is fantastic. Keep it coming, please. One thing I've been told is to have this camera landscape, which I've done tonight, so please give me feedback if this is working better or not. Usually I do it upright because of the height, and you needed to see the full length. With what I'm doing today, you don't need to, so hopefully that works as well. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is to really go over the meaning of the ease that we put into the dress, and that is the extra beyond the measurements. And a few of you have got in touch and they're saying it keeps coming up small. They've taken their measurements, they've added some, and it's not enough. So let me explain really how that works. It's, once again, I cannot give you an exact measurement, but if I help you to understand how it works, then that helps you to apply that meaning and come up with your own version of it. Now, I always explain this. It mainly comes, I've never explained it before in fitting. It usually comes up in couture and tailoring, and it's all about the roll or the contour of the cloth. And an easy way to explain that is like the rings of a tree. Many of you will smile because you've heard me say it so many times before. But imagine the centre of a tree, and then the next layer is just outside of that, and then gradually, so slowly, it gets bigger and bigger, with each layer just enough to go around the layer that's underneath. Well, that's how cloth works when you put so many layers on top of each other. It also is a little bit how ease works. So imagine you're the size of the little ring in the middle, and you take the measurement and you need a piece of cloth to go around that. And I suggest 2 inches, for example. Now, 2 inches extra going around there will be quite a lot, and there'll be a lot of ease and a lot of movement, and that's fine. You may even want to take some off. But imagine you're the size of the outer ring, and you take that measurement and you add 2 inches. That 2 inches distributed around the whole circle isn't a lot at all. That's how you have to apply the logic of the extra fabric needed to get around the contour of your body. So as you go up in size, the more that you're going to need. I hope that makes sense, because when you're taking those measurements and deciding what size you are, I keep saying look at the next sizes, either up or down, but remember how much extra on top of you're going to need, and that will hopefully help you choose the right size and cut out the right amount. So that's the first point over. The second one, I've had lots of you talk about the dart being too high on the bodice. Well, unfortunately, we all know those darts can move around, and quite often it's an age thing. Things tend to move around as we get older, and unfortunately they never seem to move up, they move down. So here I have the dart, the bust dart, and I've pinned it where it should be, well, as it is on the commercial pattern. There is no reason why that can't just slide down. Consider this to be like a slide rule. It can go up or down. Now, if you've put your calico on and your bust point seems lower than the actual dart, just put a dot on the calico, and when you take it off, we can then maneuver that dart. So on the other side, I've just made up a measurement. I hope you can see that okay. I've marked the original dart, and then I've measured, for example, the point of that should be 1 inch lower. Redraw everything 1 inch lower, and now you have a dart. No fancy cutting and sliding anything around. Now you have a dart that is lower, and of course for you it could be lower or higher than that. One thing though to consider is mark it on your paper, and before you cut it out in fabric or calico, you need to close it, pin it together like I've done this one. So I'm going to get a couple of pins. The reason I'm looking a bit awkward when I'm moving around is I've got a shabby cat down there, and I'm convinced she feels a bit sorry for me, thinking I've not got anybody to talk to, and she comes and listens to me for some reason. So I'm quite glad that she's in the room and feels that she needs to be my audience. But going back to this, so I'm going to pin the new dart together, ignore the old one, and it's not until that's closed do I then cut it out. And that will give me the right amount on the sides. So using my scissors, I get myself a nice line back. She's moved along a bit now. So a nice line back, and then the extra that is needed is gone in the right place for when you stitch it. If you'd have done it, if you hadn't have done that, there won't be enough fabric and you'd have a frayed edge underneath. So don't feel too worried about sliding a dart. That's on the bust, but it could be on the waist, it could be on the back, it could be anywhere. You might change a design. I keep talking about using different tops from one pattern, a skirt from another, and you might want to slide these darts to a different place just to marry up with the dart that's on the top. So you can do it for various reasons, design or fit. Okay, so we've talked about that dart too. One other thing that came up in the week is I said to you about the two darts at the neckline, because my neckline was gaping. I got hold of it and I then turned those darts in, that one dart into two, and I don't know if you can see it that well, but they're on this dress. So I actually stitched in the two darts, and the reason I did that, it fits me everywhere else fine. I'm happy with that. Some of you have asked me about dart manipulation, and that actually means I didn't have to stitch those darts. I could have taken them from there and moved them into another place. But some of you are beginners and you want to just sew a garment. Those that have mentioned dart manipulation have been either on a course or they know about pattern cutting, they've looked at a book, and I don't want you running off for the hills. So I deliberately haven't mentioned it. But it is an interesting technique to know about for design and fitting purposes. So I'm going to do that as a separate video. At some point I'll come back and just do a dart manipulation video and explain how they can be turned into other features and where you would use it. So if you are at the beginning, ignore it for now because it can be quite overwhelming, but come back to it as a separate issue and use it as and when you feel ready for it. So I hope I haven't just sort of cast it away, but I hope that makes sense and you understand why. I'll come back to it later. Okay, so we've talked about neck darts, bust darts, briefly dart manipulation. Now one of the other things that's come up is someone has said to me about it being quite big, so not just gaping in the neck, it's gaping on the shoulders, in the arm, across the chest, but they don't want, so they've actually been able to grab some fabric and you can put pins in there, but then it's making the armhole too small. So the armhole is underneath here, is in the right place, but you've got all of this which you want to close up, and then it will make your armhole too small, which then affects setting in your sleeve. So it's really quite simple. What I would like to do is to show you that don't touch the armhole. Let's go back to this side. So I'm kind of saying that somebody's put this on and it's all gapy round here and we want to get rid of this. So I'm going to draw from under the arm right across to the neck. Now it depends where it's gaping, but let me just start with this one point and I'll explain the rest. So I'm going to cut along here and I'm going to cut up to the neck. I think you probably realise by now I have this issue where I talk to you and it's all fine, then I go to this and I can't see it for the life of me because I haven't got my glasses on. But anyway, I'm sort of aiming in the right direction. So if I take this off and then move it down, so I've closed the amount. So let's say it was an inch, so I overlap these half an inch and half an inch, that's the inch gone. I've kept the same armhole. I've eradicated the looseness, the pleat or the excess that was there. I've kept the same. I've taken the shoulders in. I've kept the same. I brought the neckline down. I've got rid of all of that, and that's done it. It's kept my armhole in place. Now, really, that would continue to the other side. The only time it might be different is if it wasn't loose here, it's only at the armhole area and maybe in the lower shoulder, but actually the neck was perfect. Then all you do is not cut so far over. So let's get that back up there. That's where the problem is. But the neck's fine. So I'm going to cut up to the shoulder. Rid of the extra, bring that down, pin that in place. So basically it's like a sloping shoulder. The neck's fine. We can't have a step in it like that, so I just graduate them back in, one into the other, and then we keep this. You either lower it if it's necessary, or you've done the operation in the right area. Now it's just a matter of truing. In reality, that's blending it in back in to where's correct. If it's further away, obviously the further you've got to cut in here to correct it. So I hope that makes sense. Any problems with that, please come back to me. It's very difficult when everything is just here and it's very three-dimensional, and obviously there's pieces around. But I do need to, I think I'm going to get a big board, so then I can do some drawings and do it so you can see it in paper format. A quick one, somebody said to me about lifting the arms. When they put the dress on, they lift their arms up and the dress goes with it. Now, it's an A-line dress. The only way this dress would stay in place is if it's secured, either by fit or by its underpinnings. And it's not that sort of dress. So my guess is if your arms go up, the dress is going to go with it, but that's acceptable for this style. But to explain, like I've just said about the fit and the underpinnings, one really good example of when this doesn't happen is in a riding jacket. Now, a riding jacket has been made where the sleeves fit so perfectly, a bit like a couture Chanel jacket, where it fits so tight and the armholes are really small because it goes up high under the armhole, and the armhole in the jacket is small as well. So everything fits underneath here, and that helps you to rotate easily. So you can lift your jacket and arms up and ride, and everything stays in place. It's a bit like a pair of trousers. What tends to happen, people think if they need more movement, they make it bigger, which means it's lower. So there's more fabric underneath here. And with a pair of trousers, there would be more fabric under the crotch, basically. So it restricts it. It means you can't move as high. You can't move up as much. So you're actually doing the opposite to what you think. So if you did want to make a garment where it didn't ride up as much, then the armholes and the sleeves have to be cut higher. But there comes a point, is that the look that you're going for? So in a wedding dress, for example, that can happen, and you don't want it riding up and you're forever pulling it down. So then you rely on the underpinnings. It's a decision that you have to make, but in reality, for an everyday easy fit, you're going to have that issue. You're just going to have to straighten it up again when you put it back on, put it back down. Okay, I think we ought to leave it here, else you won't get this video till next month. Hope you're happy with that. It's great talking to you again, loving doing these. I am going to come back with the other one about the what did I say about the dart manipulation, and I'll come back, like I said, as a separate one. And then I'm going to be back next week. Obviously, oh, I know what I wanted to tell you. Right, some of you, because you have started, I wanted then to talk about the actual stitching. And one of the things that I've noticed, and you've asked me about, is this inverted point, stitching it. And there's a great little technique, a wonderful way to get a perfect point. It doesn't help if you're going round all in one go. So it's ever so easy, but I want to come back as a separate thing, and then I can use different fabric to show you. Okay, I hope you're happy. Oh, I know the other thing I wanted to tell you is I'm going to do a little practice live, probably at the end of next week. I hope you don't mind I'm getting you involved in all my little, you know, my little exercises to find out what I'm doing. But I know you're all great, you all join in and you all give me an honest critique, which is fabulous. Okay, everyone, that's it for now. Hope you get this. Let's see. And I'll speak to you really soon. Take care. Bye. Did that work? It never does. I have to go up because I can't see.